Hey everyone, Dr. Lepore here, and this is part 2 of reading There Will Come Soft Rains by Bradbury. Hey, by the way, notice there's that second line here, hello, is anybody home? So that is a clue to what this piece is about. In the first video, I read you most of the story, and I stopped periodically to talk about the ideas. So just to recap on it, we know that the first paragraphs, the house wakes up, but it's empty, and we see this because Bradbury tells us over and over, house is afraid nobody will be up. The house is empty. The emptiness is pretty clear. Nobody's there. And it's breakfast time. The house makes breakfast. It tells us it's August 4th, 2026, which is important because this was written in the 1950s. This is an old piece. To us, 2026 isn't that far, or maybe it feels really far right now. But realistically, I mean, this is an old piece. Okay? So that gives us some clues, too, about what was going on in the context, in the time, in the history. Go look it up. Okay? It tells us very mundane things, but you can see the house is running by itself. It tells us about bills, sends people off to school, but nobody left because nobody's there. The garage is working, the eggs and bacon never got eaten, so the house cleans up. The house cleans itself. And then we find out at 10 o'clock that the house is alone in a destroyed city, and that city glows at night, which immediately, catch that word, radioactive glow. Something horrible has happened here. What would reduce a city to rubble, right, and ash and glow? Probably a bomb. Look at your history from the 1950s. It continues on, and it tells us about the outside of the house, and it does this by telling us that the house is cleaning up, the yard is cleaning up, but it tells us that the house is charred, where it's lost its paint. And it tells us about the silhouette, okay, of a man mowing a lawn, a woman picking flowers, children playing ball that are caught in like a flash, an instant, right? Which goes back to that idea of a bomb. They never tell us it's a bomb at this point, right? But we can imagine what else would leave us with rubble and ash and these pictures and just this horrible portrait that we're listening to. So the house keeps going, and, it keeps running, and a dog comes in. The dog lives there, but it doesn't feed the dog because it's a machine. The house is not alive, even though it's our main character. Think about it. There's no humans. The dog makes an appearance and then dies, which makes me so sad. Okay? If you notice my hand over here, it's because my dog is sitting right next to me because I'm reading a story, and she loves that. And now she left because I talked about it. But so the poor dog dies, which is heartbreaking. Just the imagery here. And then the house cleans up after the dog. The dog is now gone, right? So then in the afternoon, it sets up for bridge. I guess the wife had a bridge match, right? But nobody shows up. And at 4:30, it gets the children's room ready for them to play, and then bath time, and then dinner time. And then we get to the poem, right? The house is silent. We get to the poem that the house is going to read to the woman of the house, right? So we know it's the woman of the house, Mrs. McClellan, because it tells us that. And the poem starts with, there will come soft rains, and the smell of the ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound. Swallows are birds. And frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, right, because robins have red on them, whistling their whims on a low fence wire. And not one will know of war, not one will care at last when it's done. Not one would mind, nor bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. So that is a huge clue. The title comes from this poem, which is about what would nature say if we were all gone, right? And here it says, not one would mind, not neither bird nor tree. So birds won't care, trees won't care, maybe houses won't care, I don't know. But it's talking about spring herself, the season, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we were gone. So that's putting that in our mind. This is about people, humanity disappearing. And there's some more discussion in here, right? So we have some clues. It continues on and it tells that there is a fire right? And there was a cigar, and the cigar went out, and it just kept going. And at 10 o'clock, something happens. A tree branch comes through the window. It shatters some solvent on the stove, and the kitchen catches on fire. And the house tries to put itself out. It tries to save itself, but it couldn't do it. Fire is deadly. Fire is terrifying, right? I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Continuing through, it couldn't do it. It couldn't put it up, and the fire went through the house, and it ate everything, destroyed everything, right? And even so, more robots came down and tried to put out the fire. The fire backed off, right? The fire's being killed, but it's not dying. It was clever, and it went outside the house, and it goes up through the walls into the attic, and things explode, and the fire comes back through the entire house. So here, again, the house is our character. It is who we are studying. It's who is feeling the story, even though it's just a machine. And the house shudders, right? And the voices fade, and the walls stop talking, and everything goes wrong, and it all starts to go quiet. The jungle in the nursery burns, right? So as we keep moving towards the end, we can see where this is coming. You can predict this. More voices of the house die. And yet there's others that just keep talking, telling us music, cutting the lawn, just pieces of it continue to run, even though the house is dying and the people are gone and the dog is dead. And the fire burst out of the house, and the house slams down in the kitchen, right? The stove is making breakfast in the middle of the fire that's destroying it. There's a crash. The attic comes down, smashing into the first floor, and then the first floor into the cellar, and the cellar to the sub-cellar. It's all gone. Smoke and silence, a great quantity of smoke. Dawn showed faintly in the east. Among the ruins, one wall stood alone. Within the wall, a last voice said, over and over again, and again, even as the sun rose to shine upon the heaped rubble and steam. Today is August 5th, 2026. Today is August 5th, 2026. Today is. This is a really powerful story. It was written in the 1950s by a science fiction writer named Ray Bradbury, and what he was trying to do was warn us about building these machines that we were learning at the time. We were learning. Computers, the way we knew it, didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. Okay? The way we knew it until 1993 was the first time it was put on paper as a description. But the 1950s, computers were, becoming a thing, but they were mainframes, and they were not nearly what we have. But that's a whole other discussion for another day. I'll tell you that bedtime story, the story of the internet. But anyway, in this, he's forecasting what could happen if we build self-sufficient houses or machines, robots, when robots weren't even really an idea yet. What could happen if we're gone? That the robots will keep going. They won't care. So this is a warning, right? There's a message in this story that says, be careful, right? Be aware, be connected. Servants of machines could be a problem. And as I'm sitting here, if I say the wrong words, my Google Home's going to wake up, or your phone is going to wake up. These things that he predicted have become reality. The question still becomes, what is humanity? What's our relationship with them? Because in this case, there was a war, and there was a bomb, or at least it seems like it in my view, which killed the people and destroyed the town and left one house standing, which after running for a while, caught fire because accidents happen, and left one wall standing that had no idea that anything was going on. So I hope it helps that I read this through with you. There is deeper meanings in this, and what I would do with this story, and actually this is even my idea, one of my students decided to do a timeline, and they actually wrote out the timeline with just the key points for each, so they could look at it. In stories like this, you might not want to ruin the ending, because, it's a story and you're reading it for fun. But what you might find is after you do the reading, you might have to go back and do another preview read or even run a timeline in this case because it gave us times. But you're going to have to mix some of the strategies together to get what you need out of it because this is a tough and dense piece because it's not about a person. The character you follow is the house and the hundreds or thousands of voices, which are the robots that inhabit it and keep it running. So I hope you enjoyed this. You know, I don't like coming on camera, but I'll do it for you guys. So we'll do this again in the future. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you soon.